We talk about what we call legacy brand countries, countries that were once great and have maintained that reputation perhaps long after they deserved it. They're no longer free. They no longer have great economic policies, but people think that they are. Europe has a lot of those countries, and today I'm going to share with you a couple that I believe are not legacy brands. Hi, I'm Andrew Henderson. This is Nomad Capitalist, where we help 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs and investors legally go where you're treated best. You can learn more at nomadcapitalist.com. Now, the idea of the legacy brand country, as I said, is one where they're coasting on the fumes of a once great reputation. They've almost become marketing campaigns for themselves. These are the countries that when you talk to people in some emerging parts of the world, they all want to go to this certain country. And it's not even because they necessarily believe it's free anymore, not because they believe they'll get a better financial deal. In some cases, it's just a matter of, this is the place where all my friends are going to show off and I want to go there. That's a legacy brand. And so we've tried to talk over the years about countries that really don't get that much attention. I was talking to some friends of mine in Georgia recently, and we came to the realization that there are parts of Italy that really aren't much more developed than parts of Georgia. And yet Italy has this great brand name. You pay a lot more for it. The taxes, well, they do have a tax incentive now, are still higher than you would find in Georgia. And so, you know, there are places that, like Italy, like Spain, where there are parts that really aren't that developed at all, and yet they have these great brand names that people flock to. People look at them as great tourist destinations, and yet you can go to other countries. It may not be Georgia for you, it may be somewhere else, and you can get much the same experience. Much like I say, if you like living in California, you can find California with more freedoms and lower taxes in lots of places around the world. But when it comes to Europe, you know, you have so many brand names. You have the Spains, you have the Italys. These are places with exorbitant taxes. They want to take people's private property in parts of Spain. In many ways, they're going in the wrong direction, but they're coasting on their name. A couple countries that I think are not legacy brands. Now, does this mean they're perfect? No. And does this mean that they may be the place for you? Not necessarily. But a couple places that I think probably don't coast on their reputation. Number one, Ireland. Number two, Portugal, among Western Europe. Now, let's start with Portugal. So a lot of people want to go to Portugal these days. Very crypto tax friendly, lots of different immigration options. They have an NHR tax incentive for 10 years. This is a place that, well, again, we've talked about some of the misconceptions around the tax incentives. It is a very open place. Now, Portugal being right next to Spain, why is it that Portugal has a much easier path to citizenship, a better tax incentive? Everything is easier than in Spain. Well, Spain has the brand name. It's a much bigger country. They have a lot more going on. And I think, quite frankly, the government thinks we don't have to really cater to people. We're Spain. How many people have I talked to where they're like, listen, Andrew, my wife will only move to Spain? No one says my wife will only move to Portugal. And I think that Portugal, while the government is really no different than in Spain, by and large, realizes, hey, listen, we got a much smaller country. We have lower wages. In fact, some of the lowest wages in Europe, quite frankly. People don't realize that. We need to do something to bring some people into this country. We need to come back. And they started with one of the first golden visas out of the Great Recession because they said, we got to get some money in this joint. And we can't just simply coast on our reputation. Now, Portugal is becoming a place in our world where people are wanting to go. You see a lot of Americans moving there. You see a lot of people getting golden visas. You see a lot of people going and taking their crypto there. But is Portugal a legacy brand? No. Now, can countries start to move in that direction? We've talked about a country like Estonia, for example. They had the e-residence program. It was so much ballyhooed. I think that the fervor has somewhat died down. People realize that Estonia's e-residence and Estonia's tax exemptions really aren't as competitive or as workable as people said that they were, especially the people in the Estonia ecosystem. Nothing wrong with Estonia, by the way. It just was a place that kind of got a bit too much press, and people started to take it as the best place on earth when it just had, you know, kind of sort of competitive options. Could Portugal get into that category? I suppose. And listen, there was some news out of Portugal recently. Now there's a new law where the government will come after you if you message your employees after work. Now we can argue that, hey, leave your employees alone. I have managers and we do talk sometimes after business hours. We do talk on the weekends. Sometimes they message me, I message them. Sometimes it's very short conversations. In Portugal, that will now be illegal. Is that a move in the right direction? No. But I think if you look at the overall picture of you don't have to hire your employees in Portugal, and I've never really recommended people do that unless you really want to hire people there for a cheap golden visa. You can go and take the best things Portugal has to offer. I think that while they're definitely becoming more popular, they're not yet a legacy brand because they realize they have to be competitive. Now, among Western European countries, among the Spains and the Frances and the Italys and the Germanys and all the countries that everyone knows about and everyone respects and everyone talks about, the UK on that list as well. Ireland to me is a country, and I've been going to Ireland for many, many years. I've always loved Ireland and the Irish people, just a beautiful place. It's a place that, if you look at the history, I mean, they really had to fight to get things done. You look at what happened in the early 2000s with the Celtic Tiger. That was one of the big things that happened in Ireland. People, stopped moving out. People were coming back to work in Ireland. This is a country that, to me, really can't be a legacy brand in many ways because you have this great history. Much as you have in many countries in Eastern Europe, there's this kind of historical issue with immigration. People were leaving the country to go and work somewhere else. And so now they've built Ireland into one of the most robust economies, one of the highest wages in the world. And how did they do that? I think they did it with a certain amount of humility. And again, you may not agree with everything that they did, but there was a thing of, let's keep taxes on business small. Let's encourage business. Obviously, Ireland has had some of the lowest tax rates in Europe for a long time. They did go along with the new global minimum tax deal to raise it basically on the large companies 2.5%. But they have this English-speaking workforce, and yet they had this great humility of saying, let's focus on job creation to help people come and stay in our country. And not only Irish citizens, but people from around the world can come and can work here. And our goal is not going to be to tax the heck out of people, as many European countries do. Our goal is let's have people have jobs and things will work from there. It's a little bit simplistic. But to me, it was a great way for a small country to be competitive. And I have a lot of respect for that. And so I think that in the shadow of the UK, for example, a country like Ireland has really been very aggressive in doing some good things. Now, those are two countries where you can move to. You can move there by making an investment through their residence by investment program. You can move there by proving your self-sufficiency and actually moving in. Are these countries for people who are seeking total freedom? No, it's still Europe. And there are obviously regulations, there are requirements. So these are not places for everyone. But if I'm comparing Western European countries, you could potentially talk about Belgium. I think that Belgium has maybe gotten rid of some of the incentives that made it an interesting place for some people to go. Maybe the other ones could be in there. It's not as much of a legacy brand, but obviously a lot of Europe is legacy brands. It's countries that people know, they're brand names, right? Much like a Coca-Cola. And so people just go there to go there. These are two countries that I think haven't taken themselves as seriously and said, we have to do something. The very definition of a legacy brand country is, we can charge whatever we want. These suckers will still come. No one will leave. It's like Gavin Newsom in California. Where are you going to go? Gavin, what is it, 1848? Where are you going to go? There's a lot of places to go. People are moving to Florida. They're moving to Texas. They're moving to Puerto Rico. They're moving to God knows where, Timbuktu. There's a lot of places you can go. And obviously in Europe, if you're Irish, if you're Portuguese, you can go and live in Germany if you want. But these countries said, hey, we have to do something different. Now, obviously you can go further afield in the European Union. You have countries that never really had the opportunity to be a legacy brand that are offering low taxes, that are offering, more freedom, like a Bulgaria, for example. A lot of the Eastern European countries, from Hungary to the Baltics to some of the Balkan countries outside of the EU, have tax incentives or low taxes. But those were never countries that really had the chance to be like, oh my goodness, we're going to Bulgaria. Now, many people now are going to go to Bulgaria because they have a citizenship by investment program of sorts, because they have a very low tax rate, because they have a good tax residence program for Europeans. It was never a legacy brand, but among Western European countries, those two stand out. I know some people are going to disagree in that Western European countries aren't perfect for some of what people who are watching this are looking for. But again, whether it's good for you or not, attitude to me matters. Culture to me matters. Countries where it's like, listen, let's take every penny Elon Musk has. Let's tax billionaires at 70%. Let's tax multimillionaires at 60%. Let's impose wealth taxes. Those are countries that say, we don't care if you're coming here. We don't care. And yet I've seen Ireland and Portugal be more restrictive in terms of taxes they're putting, especially on people who are incoming. And so, to me, that makes them somewhat of the exception in a world of Western European legacy brands. Don't stop now. We've got well over 1,000 more videos here on YouTube for you to watch and learn how to go where you're treated best. And if you want to work with Nomad Capitalist personally, go to nomadcapitalist.com/apply, learn about our unique, tried and true process, garnered over years of experience, and learn how you can become our client.